Hello, witchy people. Third time trying to record this. Third time's the charm, we hope. Okay. What I wanted to do today was show you a couple of things that I've managed to, um, they've been bought for me or I've bought, and a couple of things that I like to do. So, things I've bought. I bought 10 of these beautiful jars. Aren't they gorgeous? And also 10 of these jars, which are the same but slightly bigger. And I got them from Germany. And I actually got them from the factory where they make them. And it's only because I was doing a quick search online about where I could buy cheaper glass bottles and jars. They have some really gorgeous ones in this German this German place online. But these ones are I love the shape of them, and obviously they come with a nice sealed lid. So, and I think it cost me about £20, and I got 10 of each one. So, a bit of a bargain, really. Really happy with that. So I think it's worth, if you're looking for things like this, is to do a search. And obviously, if you're in the UK, you can get things quite cheaply from all over Europe. So that's quite that was the bargain. So it's a good idea to sort of like look around online if you can. And I also got this is another. It's my Yule present from my husband. Isn't that the most amazingly gorgeous? And it's quite it's a it's 10 centimeters across here. So that's what, it's about 4 inches. Isn't it gorgeous? And of course, my very, very cheap coffee lid stand fits perfectly. So there. See, so these stands are really, really good. You know, they something for free basically, because you know I buy the coffee anyway, so the lids are there. Right. I wanted to go quickly into things I save. So, obviously, eggshells, and I do crush mine up quite finely. And if I give it a shake, you can see the powder sticking to the bottle. So, eggshells, save them. You can use them a lot in replacement of black salt. Good for protection, stuff like that. Obviously, it's more of a voodoo thing. I do believe that's where it comes from, using the eggshells. It's definitely more, it comes from that sort of line of witchcraft. So there we go. Right, the other thing I save, there you go, that is incense. Used incense. So it's incense ash. Save that because it's really useful for making black salt with. And also save, see, these are matches. So save matches when you burn them out. I mean, when I burn them, I do tend to just keep hold of them, and I burn them and I burn them because I use the extra long matches, and just keep them burning until they are. Then you drop them into something obviously that is fireproof, and then when they're cooled down, this is actually a plastic bottle. It's the only plastic bottles I use for my incense, and when these are full, I'll grind this down and then I'll transfer them into a glass jar. But whilst I'm collecting, they go in the plastic jar. I don't know why. It's just something I do. I know it's kind of weird. But for someone like me who doesn't have a huge pot, a sort of iron pot that I use to do a lot of magic works in, because I am more of a hearth witch and a green witch, I don't do a lot of ritual. I'm not a Wiccan either, so I tend not to do a lot of ritual. So I don't get a lot of these scrapings from cauldrons and such like, to make enough black salt. So even though I don't use a lot of black salt, it is nice to have a nice jar of it, you know, hanging around. So this is the kind of thing that you can use. And obviously, I think I've said before, everyone has a different recipe for black salt. Mine, I do use charcoal, and obviously this is charcoal, incense ash, all sorts. And someone said to me about putting my osha root in there. Osha root, I call it osha root. I think that's wrong. Anyway, so, and that helps increase the protection aspect of it. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was my acorns. See, acorns all clean, and I collected some hawthorn berries. So these have been cleaned and cleansed. That's what I wanted to talk about. I keep them in these whilst they're drying out, because this is a really useful, I know it's plastic, I don't care. A lot of people use like wicker and the bamboo steamers. I use this. It works perfectly for me whilst they're drying out, because it has ventilation along the side. And I use these little silica gel packets, ever so inexpensive. You get a couple of hundred of them for like £1 if you look on eBay. So I use those, and I wanted to talk to you about how I cleanse them, because I am a green witch. Excuse me, my allergies are playing up terrible. That's why I've got the incense burning. I don't know if you can see the smoke coming across every now and then. It helps with the allergies. So, excuse me a moment. Oh dear, so I've got what I call piggy eyes. All my eyes are swollen because of my allergies. That's quite funny. So I'm just making sure my incense is going into the incense holder, because obviously I saved the incense ash. Okay, where was I? Right, with the berries and the acorns that I collect. When I collect them, being a very old-fashioned kind of witch, I'm not a Wiccan, so I'm not into ritual and such like. I don't feel the need to bless things in the way that Wiccans do. I think they can be quite intricate. Their rituals can be quite intricate, and I'm very much more of a simple kind of person. And I think as long as the intent is there, and also it depends what path you follow. If you do follow the Wiccan path, then obviously that's what's right for you, and that's what you should be doing. I can't cope with the structure of being Wiccan, and I don't. It doesn't quite gel with me. Do you know what I mean? I don't feel it. God, that sounds like an old hippie, but you know. So when I cleanse, I also clean. Where I gather things from outside and they're by the roadside and everything else, I do think that's quite an old-fashioned way of doing things. I clean and I cleanse. And the easiest way to do that is with salt. And I use, I should have it down here, because I do keep all my salt. My black salt is down at the bottom here. So I do have, that should be sea salt. That is sea salt. And rock salt. And this is just normal household table salt, fine salt. And this is what I use to clean and cleanse. And once again, it's because I'm very much one of those people that, one of these witches, that likes to use what you've got. Don't go out and buy something especially if you don't have to, you know. And table salt is perfectly fine. You know, salt is salt. It's perfectly fine. And I do know this has got anti-caking agents in it, but then, you know, that's a good thing. It stops it getting all claggy. So, what I do is when I gather things, I write everything in my new notebook now, which is, yes, it's still got the googly eyes on it. My whole house, my son came to visit me yesterday, and my whole house is now covered in googly eyes. My wreath on the front door has got googly eyes on it. My Santa Claus has got googly eyes on it because, once again, I will say, yes, I am a witch, and yes, I celebrate Yule, but I really, really love Christmas. I have Christmas decorations. You know, I have the whole Santa Claus and everything, and it's really hard to find a green Santa Claus, so most of my Santa Clauses, unfortunately, are wearing red. Anyway, I digress once again. So this is the notebook that I tend to write everything else. So I'll write it down when I gathered it, where I gathered it from, and what I did. So this is that's the first thing I do. Obviously, when I gather them, it's quite easy gathering. The acorns were discarded, and they weren't even on the ground, they were on concrete. So, you know, but you do thank, you know, you don't take something out of nature, even it is on from a concrete pathway. Don't take it without saying thank you and acknowledging that you are taking something away. Hawthorn berries is much easier. I do feel very much like Mother Nature will tell me when I've had enough, and it's usually by, you know, here's a thorn in your hand, leave me a drop of blood. You know, so I am taking something from them. When I gather berries, especially like hawthorn, you know, they are there, they're not there for me, they're there for the dicky birdies. You know, they're there, that's a food source for something else in nature. So I tend to gather them from places where birds won't go. So very low down in the hedges, very open parts of the hedges, quite busy pathways where birds won't go. And I feel that's being more responsible. So I don't, you know, even if there are some really gorgeous berries up high or sort of like eye height, and they're really lovely and red and glossy and beautiful, I won't gather them because that's there for the birds. The same as when I gather my own holly from my garden, the holly berries and the holly branches. I gather the low hung ones, which is why my holly isn't a bush, it's a holly tree, because I tend to take off the branches from the lower end of the tree so that it becomes a tree, which is actually safer, much safer for the birds. My cats can't get up my holly tree. They have tried, but they can't do it. So bear that in mind when you're gathering. Even if it's not your path, think about it. You know, be a bit green about this. Be a bit nature minded. You know, even if it's not your path, think about what you're gathering. Obviously, I don't gather any of these berries or anything for consumption. I don't eat them, so it doesn't matter if they're tainted by car fumes and such like. But I do care that they are a bit unclean. So, gosh, I'm rambling on, aren't I? When I get home, I take a small bowl, and it's usually one like this. So these are the ones I bought the other day. But anything, or you can even do this straight into a sink, you know, because, like I said, I'm not into ritual. I'm into, how simple is this? That's just the way I do things. Like I said, it's a very old-fashioned sort of witchy way of doing things. So I grab my bowl. I then put my berries or my acorns or whatever it is in the bowl, and I sprinkle them with salt, and I do use the fine salt because it's what gets into all the nooks and crannies. That's best for me. So sprinkle it over with the salt, and then I like to carry it into the bathroom because that's what's closest to me. If I had a jug of water in here, I'd use a jug of water, but the bathroom's easiest because it's just across the hall from me. Anyway, so I then put water over and start mixing the salt water all through the berries or the acorns, whatever I'm using. And that's when I say just a small incantation, and it is just to, it's not, I suppose it is a ritual in a way, but it's more to intensify what I'm trying to do. And this is where it comes in, that the green witchery part. It's very much, and being a hearth witch and a green witch, it is very much, I want to clean them as well as cleanse them. So I'm cleaning them. I want to clean them and cleanse them. And I want to do this very simply. So the salt water is being washed around, and I say something along the lines of, and this is what I said when I did these ones, I said, and it's usually the same things, and it's usually by with all the power in and around me, because I do draw on the power. You have to draw on the power that's inside yourself as well as the power that's around you. So with all the power in and around me, first with salt, then smoke, I purify thee. Or with this salt, I purify thee. But I use first with salt, then with smoke, I purify thee. Okay, and when I feel like, you know, that's been cleaned enough, you'll know with acorns especially, because they will give off a lot of, I think it's tannin, they'll give out a lot of that tannin colour, and, you know, with the dirt as well, so you'll know they're getting clean. So that's with the salt and the water. I then like to rinse the salt off, because it's not good for anything. You don't really want too much of a salt residue on the berries or the nuts that you gather. So I then rinse it off very carefully, and then I put them something like this with the tissue on the bottom. Also remember to clean out the bowl you've used really, really well, because especially with like these wooden woven bowls and a lot of wood bowls, the salt after a while it won't do good. So you want to really rinse it out and then dry it out really well. Okay, so and this is just normal tissue, you know, hanky tissues, toilet tissue, lay it out. That'll soak up the water. That's what those are in there for. That's when I usually have incense burning. I take it through the incense smoke. Now, I don't always do the smoke. I always do the salt. I don't always do the smoke because it's not really necessary for what I do. So then I go through the smoke of the incense, and very much as a similar thing again, with all the power in and around me. First with salt, now with smoke, I purify thee, or I cleanse thee, depending on how you want to word it. So, and that's it. You know, it's that simple, and that's what being a hearth witch, a green witch, it's that easy. So that's how I clean and cleanse. And once again, that's very important to me. I clean and cleanse. Like I said, this is a very old-fashioned way of doing things. You clean and cleanse. Telephone. Be right back. Oh dear. No, I haven't been missold PPI. I hate those telephone calls. I get so many of them. Okay. Cleansing and gathering. I've done that bit. The other thing I wanted to do was make the distinction, a lot of people don't realise, between being a green witch or a hearth witch, or some people call it a nature witch, eclectic witchery, and being a hedge witch. A hedge witch, a lot of people think is to do with herbs and such like, and it's not. I am a hedge witch, and that's because I did it on the 3 things, which is reveal yourself. That I am clairaudient, and I have been clairvoyant, clairsentient, but for the main I'm clairaudient, and I do a lot of divination and scrying, and that is it's being in between the 2 worlds. So you're in between this world and the next world, and that's hedge witch. Hedge witch is straddling the hedge between the 2 worlds. That's where hedge witch comes from, and I wanted to make that clear because a lot of people think oh, you know, she gathers herbs and stuff like that and stuff from the hedgerows, so therefore she's a hedge witch. That's not why I'm a hedge witch. That's something completely different. There were a couple of other things I wanted to. So that phone call's really thrown me off my, you know, thrown me completely. This is what I wanted to do. I got myself finally. And it's a stamp. As you can see, this one is the pentacle. I do, I know sort of like witches do, they tend to have an affinity with certain symbols. It's either like the goddess symbol, the triple moon, or some people, it's like the Cladal, which is the Celtic symbols, Celtic knotwork, stuff like that, or the pentagram or the pentacle is definitely what resonates with me. And whether it's because my father was Jewish or not, I don't know, because obviously it was quite a Jewish symbol. It represented the 5 books of Solomon, was it, or something? I don't know. So yeah, so it has been known to be a Jewish symbol, and whether that's why it resonates with me, I don't know. Anyway, this the handle here is made of yew wood, and this was actually, it was really surprised me. It wasn't the cheapest, but it was one of the cheapest. It's one of the most least expensive, I should say. The wax seal that I could find, and you know, it was really nice. It was very, even though it was one of the cheapest, it was very responsibly made, and it is made in Glastonbury. And I have their leaflet here, and I shall read what it says. We are a husband and wife team, Barry, who's known as Oak Moon, and Paula, Silver Moon. All our mystical crafts are designed and handcrafted by us here in Glastonbury, the Isle of Avalon, and are all unique and exclusive to us. So there we go. And it goes on about Glastonbury. They do have a shop on Etsy and Facebook, and they are Glastonbury Mystical. And I'll do a link to their Etsy shop in the description bar below. I actually think I got this one, I think, on eBay, but they do have an Etsy shop. They also have a Facebook page, but I will link their Etsy shop, and I'm sure that everything can be found through their Etsy shop. So there we go. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? And I have got a couple of, I do have other wax seals, but I really wanted a pentagram one, and I think I've got a red wax as well. I actually like the wax. Some of the wax you get doesn't actually have a wick. And what you really want is this wick here. Some of them don't have that, and you just have to burn it with something. But obviously the wick makes it easy because you light the wick, and that's how you drip the wax down onto the paper or whatever you're using to seal. Anyway, so there we go. I completely go off there. So I can see my incense smoke coming over now. I think that's all it was. Like I said, I did want to just sort of go through some of the thing on how I clean and cleanse, and why, although I am a hedge witch, that isn't what being a hedge witch is about. This is why I had to record this twice before and 3 times, because when every time I went to say, this is where the hedge witch bit comes in, was the phrase I tried to use, and every time I said it, I wasn't thinking about what I was saying, and hedge witch bit, the word bit didn't come out as bit, and and that's why I had to keep on re-recording it. And I did find it hilariously funny, which obviously didn't help either, because I had the giggles. So yes, I wanted to explain about the hedge witch bit. Hedge witch bit. I'm not doing too well, am I? Okay, I'm going now. Have fun, witchy people. Until next time. Bye bye.